Well, my first parts have arrived. I order the parts little by little because right now it's like no other time. There's so many part shortages. I'm still having some difficulty with the video card. And I do have my kit that I bought a couple of years ago that will be my help. This fan is a Tough Air 510, and you'll see when I unbox and install it. This has two fans, so there's a Tough Air 310 also. The only difference is that there's a second fan. This I got from, let's see, I got this from Newegg for what I think was a reasonable price. So we have our cooler. I did go ahead and get the memory. I decided to do 16, so I got two 8 gigabit pieces here. They're from Corsair. They're Vengeance LPX. They're DD4 3600. I finally decided that this was good and right for what I'm going to do, so I feel comfortable with this purchase. This just arrived. It just came. So this is going to be my solid state drive, and this will be my C drive, or where my operating system is, etc. I've made it very large once before. I made a mistake of getting a very small one that ran out of space quick. This won't run out of space. It's a 1 terabyte Samsung 970 Evo Plus. This also just came. I got my Ryzen 5. This is a 5000 series processor, and you can see here on the side it's a 5600G. G for good, great. Not gaming, because I'm not a gamer, though I build with some gaming specs. The CPU, we're going to have a fan, and this I got from Amazon. It was out of stock at Newegg, then it was out of stock at Amazon, then it was in stock at Amazon, and I purchased it. Now it's out of stock again on Amazon, so this has been up and down. And of course, where everything is going to go is on our motherboards. We have an MSI, B550 Tomahawk. I like MSI. I've had nothing but good experiences with MSI products. So you'll see that this is kind of a mid-range. I'm going to call this a mid-range board. Here we go with, you can take a look at what the board will look like. And I did open it and look at it, and it is heavy. This thing is really well built. It doesn't quite have all of the connectors I would like to have on it, but it has what I need. And because it had the specs I wanted, I went ahead and purchased it. So you could see in the back, these are the specs I'm going to have for my sound. My Ethernet connection, I will have a direct Ethernet connection. HDMI and DisplayPort, HDMI and DisplayPort connections, yes. And some USB ports, and there's 2, 4, a USB-C, and another USB. So there's 4 ports in the back and a USB-C port in the back. So this is what we're going to begin to build with. Big thing, you don't see the power supply. I've had nothing but trouble with figuring out which power supply. Right now I can tell you I'm looking at going with a 750 watt power supply, which is a lot of power, more than I need, but I'm doing this for expansion in the future. So, I'm going to put together as much of this today as I can. I'm still taking my time. I have good news. All the remaining parts have been ordered. Let's take out our motherboard. SATA cables. Instructions. Quick installation guide. Thank you. More. Well, these don't really mean much anymore. On the very bottom, I have 2 screws and 1 washer in here. I don't know if you could see those. So we're going to use this box as a table. So it is time to unveil our motherboard. Let's do that. You notice I have an ESD wrist band on here, so we don't get any ESD or electric charges. Here we go. There it is in all of its beauty. And so you could see here we have this particular area. Let me get a pointer. So this will be where the Ryzen CPU goes, and there'll be a fan on top of it. And over here will be where the memory will go. I got 2 sticks, and we'll put those in numbers 2 and numbers 4. And over here we'll put on the M.2. This is going to be our main 1 terabyte drive. So Ryzen will go here. Fan will go on top of the Ryzen. This drive, 1 terabyte drive, is going to go right here. And the memory sticks are going to go right here. How's that? So this is the brains of the system. And again, it's a Ryzen 5 5600G series. So we're going to put it here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take that and lift it up. So this is going to eventually lock it in. See this triangle right here? And I'm going to put that in this corner here. It just dropped in there really nice. And let's go ahead and lock it in. We're done. The CPU is now installed. And if you didn't know already, there's a notch here. So you can only put it in one way, so it only fits in one way. And let's see, based on where that notch is, I believe it's going to only be this way. And as I push it down, if I did this right, I don't know if you heard that, but this snapped in place here. So right here, the tab snapped in place when I got it in. So we now have 8 gigabits. And let's go to 16. And again, someday we'll make that more. But right now, that's all we need. So here we go. Corsair 1 and 2. We now have our CPU. And we now have our memory. Both are installed and ready to go. You could see here we have 4 pipes, nice air system to allow air to travel. This we're going to have to remember to take off, and I'm going to keep this in here to keep it safe. So remember I told you there's 2 fans, so we have 2 different fans here. And finally, we have in this box, and we have our bracket for AMD and a bracket for Intel. And there is the thermal paste. So we did get paste with it. I'm happy. Here is the AMD side, and there is the Intel side. So hoping you could see all of that well. I'm going to make a bit of a change here in what I was going to do, and prior to putting the fan on, just because of where the drive is located, the SSD, I'm going to go ahead and install this first. So let's first take this off. Okay, so I've taken off the cover. That's going to go back on there. Go over it. So let's see what we got. We'll open up the box for you. That is your your SSD. 1 terabyte, as I said. So it looks like all we're going to do is take it, put it in here, push it down, and screw it in. And we would push it in that way. So let me get these. Remember those small screws that came with the motherboard? And this is the size of them. So let's see if we can get this in. So I'm going to put it on an angle like that. I pushed it in. I'm going to now put it down here, and it fits perfectly over the screw hole. I'm sorry, I'm blocking you here. And here we go. I'm just tightening it like that. It is in. We now have 1 terabyte of storage here. There's the whole thing. Now I'm going to take this and I'm going to take off this piece here, so it doesn't, and this will get somewhat warm, but this is all the right way to do it. And here we go. So I'm going to put it back where I took it out of. Sorry to keep blocking you. There we go. We now have 1 gigabyte of storage. We have 16 gigabytes of memory. We have a 5600G Ryzen CPU. So next up is the fan. And I'm going to, let's see if I can put it in so you could see. I'm going to put it right there in the middle. I didn't put too much, as you could see. And here is the little spatula device. And I'm just going to spread it a bit. Let me just show you this. So what we're going to do is we're going to put some brackets on the two fans that we have. So we're going to put these brackets on and then snap the fans in, one on each side. And over here, if you can see, you can't see the words, but this is where the CPU fan plugs in. Welcome back. As you can see, I have one of the fans put on the right side there. I'm going to go ahead and put the second fan on. And as you can see, I have the brackets. So here we go. We're just going to snap it in on the other side of the cooling tower. And there it goes. Done. And so we'll put each fan in. Now we have both fans individually attached. The next step is going to take those two fans that are attached, and I'm going to put it onto the motherboard, specifically to where it says CPU fan. And that's it. We're done. Today we're going to test the motherboard with the CPU cooler, the M.2 SSD, and also with 16 gigabytes of memory. I wanted to show you that we do have our power supply now, and it's a Corsair RM750. It's a gold edition. It is a modular, fully modular, and what that means is there are no cables at all in this power supply, as you could see. They're all individual, like this. And so therefore, whatever I don't use won't be taking up space anywhere. And so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to connect this to our motherboard and to see if A, I get power to the motherboard, and B, do things work on the motherboard, mostly looking at will the fan turn on, etc. I have everything pretty much set up. I'm not going to put in the graphics card, but because it's got integrated graphics, I've hooked up this HDMI actually to a TV monitor that you can't see. It's over here, though I will get a picture of it for you, assuming this works. So the power supply is hooked up. This is the CPU power here, and I have the ATX here. This fan is properly plugged in. If you remember, I did a detail on that. Power supply is all connected now to power. So I'm about to turn on the power supply. What I expect to see is some color here. And I'm going to use this screwdriver to turn on the power on this. Here we go. It went on. So the fan, so right now, I don't know if you could see it, but the CPU fans are turning and moving air. The power supply fan was turning and now it's shut off, but there was a warning on the power supply that says it doesn't always spin. So I have some RGB here on the motherboard, which you may or may not be able to see. There's a power light over here, so I could see that. You could see here that, I'll show you, the fan is spinning on the CPU, as is the second fan. You could see the power light, and over here you could see a little bit of the RGB that's there. Here is the screen, and it says we have an AMD Ryzen 5, and we do. It says our DRAM, that we have 16 gigabytes, and we do. Detected. I know the power works, and we're all set to continue. Our case has arrived. We have a DIY PC is the company, and this is a Vanguard V6 RGB. So let me just spend a minute with you on this. This is the front panel. It kind of has like a brushed look to it. It's obviously black. Two USB ports here. These are USB 3 ports. Two USB ports here. Headphones, microphone there. There's a power button. There's a reset button. LED button. And I think I have to double check what that is. I think that's the fan button here. There's a magnetic filter on the top. There is a filter on the bottom, which I'm not going to do anything with right now, but I am going to lay this on the side so you can see the inside of it as we're going to start to put together our finishing pieces. I want you to note I did put two RGB fans up here on the top, so now I have 2, 4, 5 fans plus the 2 fans on the CPU for the CPU fan. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put in the power supply and then bring, you can't see it just yet, but the power supply will go in here, and then I will bring several of the power cables up here. Power cable. So first up, I'm going to go ahead and put the power supply in here and the fan down. This will be the outside, and then these are the 3 cables here that I'll be bringing up through the bottom. And it's in solid, and the screws come with it, and it's hard not to. It says 4 PSU. So let's turn it over and see if I've gotten the cables up properly. I think I have. The power supply is in. This is the cable I plan to use for the SSDs, and this is the power cable I plan to use on the motherboard, and I think I've located them properly, so we'll go ahead and do it. Now we're going to try to rid ourselves of all this spaghetti here and begin the final assembly of our device. Let me turn some light on for you. So a couple problems I ran into. One is the grommets, like these right here in the case. They just come out. Very poor quality here, so I would tell anybody that this is just horrible. As soon as you touch it, the rubber grommet just begins to fall right out. So that's an issue. 2 is I had 2 extra fans that I showed you that I put in the top. They're only 3-pin fans versus 4-pin. So a 3-pin fan means that it'll turn at the highest speed constantly. It's not going to be variable. So that's something I'll eventually have to replace. So what are we going to do now? Well, let's go. We're going to put in 2 SSDs, and that's the next step. Then we're going to put in the motherboard, and then finally we'll tighten up all of these cables on the other side. Hello again. I now have the 2 SSDs in. I have not put them in the right way. I know they're not in the right way, but for the life of me, I couldn't figure it out. So this is the way I put them in. They're in nice and tight. I'll be able to take the power, the daisy chain power, and put this in right now. So we're going to connect the power and then the SATA cable. So next is the motherboard. The motherboard is in, as you can see here. Fan, fan, fan. There's 2 fans here. The 2 SSDs are here. I have the power cable, the CPU power cable, and I have to plug in the SSDs. Then I'm going to put in the graphics card here, and let's see how we do. Like that. I'll just put it in lightly, and I'll do that with the remaining screws. I have 2 SSDs. They are now attached to the SATA connectors on the motherboard. I have the ATX power. I have the CPU power plugged in, and again, I've not cleaned any of that up. There's 9 screws holding in this motherboard. As you can see, it fits pretty nicely. We still next have the GPU go here. I've fixed as best I could those two grommets that kept coming loose, and we'll see when we get the GPU in. But before I do the GPU, I'm going to go ahead and start attaching these connectors. Welcome back again. Let's see how we're doing. We have this whole mess here of cabling or wiring, and I could tell you that it took a while, a long while, like well over an hour so far. So a few things I've learned that I thought I'd kind of mention to you. One is that carefully you have to do, it's very hard to see in there, let me try to, here, putting in these small connectors from the front panel was really difficult with my hands. But anyway, that took a long time. It was kind of difficult. I think I'm fine here. The two up on top fans that I installed, I have not yet plugged in, but I will. And the power supply, if I had it to do all over again, I would have waited just a bit longer before I go ahead and fastened the power supply, because I had to unfasten it. The built-in fans, these two, and this one over here, those three fans are built in. They're RGB fans, and I'll show you when I get to the back. It was a little bit difficult. I'm not quite sure I have it right yet, because the place where I put the connector didn't feel exactly right to me, but we're going to go ahead and see. So let's go around. So this is the back, so I still have to put the refasten the power supply here. You can see the single fan here in the back, and this is the mess of the wires here. And so this is the cable side of the panel. So what we're going to do is we're going to fix all this once we know things work. I have everything else as connected as could be, and this is the front panel, which because of the light you can't really see very well with just the power button here. So I'm going to press that in just a moment and see if anything turns on. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. I have green, blue fans. The fans up on top, I don't know if you can see, they are spinning blue. There is a beep. I didn't plug in the HDMI cable. We may have done it. So I'm going to connect the HDMI just a moment. The HDMI cable, and again, I'm just using the integrated graphics, and I have my mouse, I think, yes, so the mouse is working, connected to the front. The CPU, it is showing the correct CPU. Yes, so that's fine. So again, the only thing it looks like I really need to make sure that this uses the correct memory profile, and I'll do that. Everything else is working. It is time for the last component, which is going to be the graphics card. I have cleaned this up as best I can. As you saw, everything worked. So the graphics card is something I'll replace in the future. It's good for now. It was a reasonable price. I got it on Newegg, and the availability was up and down. It was in stock, out of stock, in stock. It's a small footprint. Doesn't require a power cable from the supply. The power from the board is going to be sufficient. If you remember, I put in a 750 watt power supply here. So let's go ahead and install that into one of the PCI slots. Again, two fans, and you can see the connector here. Let's see if we can get it in. I've moved these cables, made them a little bit longer. So I'm going to put it in here. It snapped in great, guys. All right. We've got everything hardware-wise is loaded. We have our SSDs, the power supply is under here, two fans, one fan, two CPU fans here, memories installed there. We have the M.2 drive is installed under here, right here. It is now time to turn it on and start thinking about software. Here we go for our final piece of work. I've got everything connected, so I have a keyboard, USB keyboard, USB mouse. These would be temporary. You can see the display there. It may flicker, so I'm going to turn this light off in a little while. Here's the computer that we built. I have the HDMI connected also. The power supply is connected, so we're going to turn it on. So here we go. Power supply on, power button pressed, fans turning, everything in. So we'll be right back. Well, it booted as we wanted it to. It's actually showing the correct profile for the memory, so that's also good news. And we'll look at that in a moment. In the meantime, oh, it does show the memory speed up here. I don't know if you could see where I'm circling. It shows the memory speed where it is supposed to be. Memory size, so everything looking okay. That will conclude this video. I do have another video on the installation of Windows 11. It's a clean install, so I do it step by step. I don't want to put it in here because it'll just make this that much longer. I'll put the link somewhere in the description after I upload it, but I will tell you as of now, Windows 11 is up and it's running on this PC, and the PC is working great. Everything running well. I've activated Windows 11 now. I went and purchased a key, so everything is really good. This was a great experience. It looks like the final cost, and I don't have all of the numbers yet, I just haven't put them all together, is going to be around $1,300 US.